Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I wanted to take you outside with me into the fields in front of the town where I live. I guess it's all too far away from here. Because I wanted to put you all in a good mood, because today I'm talking about Archlinux. Archlinux is a distribution of Linux that is not often written about in media because of its nature, because it's a rolling release. There are no point releases, no stable editions. And I wanted to talk to you about why I love this distro and why we are lovers that recently had to part, because I developed a condition I'd like to call update fatigue. When Ubuntu 16.04 came along, I didn't like it. And that's not particular Ubuntu's fault. I was at Debian testing at that time. Therefore, I knew what was going on, that it was a very torn apart time for the Linux world. Talking about AMD drivers, the Catalyst drivers reached end of life. The new kernel module AMD GPU wasn't ready. Flatpaks were about to hatch, but they were not quite there. So 16.04 was kind of this could have been better thingy. And I was in Debian testing, and I was curious. I wanted to know the new things that come out, because Linux is evolving fast. I think that's a fact we can all appreciate. So I installed Manjaro due to Chris Ware's... there's a helicopter. If we would turn around, you would see there is a military base about 200, 400 meters away from me. Okay, and don't get distracted by helicopters. They're coming to get me. Okay, since I'm a huge fan of Chris Ware, I tried Manjaro out at the time because he tried out Manjaro at that time, and I liked it. I think Manjaro is something... Yeah, you can say Manjaro is for Archlinux what Linux Mint is for Debian. I think that's... You can argue about it, but I think principle... You can say that. But you know me, I'm not using Ubuntu, I'm not using Manjaro. I want an upstream distribution. There are many bugs here because, pardon me, because I want to do things on my own and I want to stitch things together. And Archlinux is perfect. I have to admit, I didn't install it via the instructions on the ARCH Wiki. I used an installer that was called ARCH Anywhere. Nowadays it's called Anarchy Linux, and the cool thing about it is that you can install and download a pre-configured system for you. But you can also say, stop, enough of this, now we have the base files, leave me alone. And that's what I did. And I stitched everything together. The Arch base, the GNU tools, the desktop environment, the applications, like bricks of Lego put on top of each other. And that was a very, very nice experience. And I've learned a lot how things work. I've looked into dependency hell, but I have to say not that much, really not that much, because Arch is a very well maintained distribution. They say it's mostly vanilla, but vanilla seems to work flawlessly. When you look into the main page of Archlinux, you will find that there were about 2, 3, maybe 4, I think less than 4 instances every year where they say, hey, when you're doing your downloads, look at this might affect you. It happened to me once, and it was really no big deal, because the ARCH Wiki is basically the whole knowledge of the humankind is collected inside the ARCH Wiki. Really. You can use ARCH Wiki for everything, no matter what distribution you're on. If you're having problems and you want to go really deep in how things work, ARCH Wiki is the place to be. But the updates. Maybe the thing was that I'm a KDE user. I love KDE. I love Ocular. I love the file manager. I need all this, and I basically, most of the time, I use Qt apps, so it makes sense for me to use an Qt-based desktop environment. I'm looking very forward to LXQT, but until that is ready to ship, KDE Plasma 5 is my home, and I love it. And it's gotten so stable and so lightweight over the last years, it's perfect. The thing is, Arch Linux, every time a new stable package comes out upstream, it lands into Arch with mostly no delay, except for packages that might be affecting your system stability, like systemd updates. That's the first thing that comes to mind. They sit there and wait till enough people say, it's okay, let's roll this out. So especially the Qt framework and all its development tools, they were coming constantly. And I'm that anxious guy who has to react to every bling bling that's happening on its desktop. So every time I boot it up, the first thing I have to do is I have to do the updates. When I wasn't on my laptop for many days, which happens, and it happens today, because today I'm entering night shift, so I won't doing much computing the next days because I'm busy sleeping all day. And then comes the anxiety, the white roll, the updates. Maybe some security holes rose up and I hadn't fixed it. Let's do the updates, let's do them fast. And that's completely my problem. That's not Arch Linux's problem, because Arch Linux fills its niche perfectly. I think for developers who depend on the newest tools and the newest things, Arch Linux is the best. But it's not for me. I love it, but it's not for me. I'm constantly stressed out by it, and I think I'm underusing it. Hello. So what did I do? I did go back to Debian. And yeah, that's something that suits me, because Arch Linux and Debian are the two distros I use as examples to explain someone who doesn't know how Linux works, how Linux can work. That Debian is this super stable distribution. It has their testing cycle, their frozen cycle, and then it's stable and it's rock solid till end of life, which is about 3 to 5 years. I think 5 years, but I think they're still even supporting Wheezy. And Arch Linux is this you're always on the run distro, and there are many things between. To be honest, I'm not on Debian stable, I'm on Debian testing. Did I change the devil for the Beelzebub here? No, I didn't, because Debian testing is very selective of what it lets in. Not all kernel updates go through, not all framework updates will go through. They look at things before they set things on fire and let it run. And that suits my level. That's my comfort level. And some might say this is nitpicking. Yes, this is nitpicking, but that's the great thing about Linux, that you can choose the thing that not only works and looks good, but also that feels right. And I will in no way say that Arch is a bad distro. I will in no way say that Debian is a bad distro. But I see enough that I can also be objective and see the flaws I have with it and the flaws that others might have with it. You might think about the pink elephant in the room, the Arch user repository, this great environment where basically every package you can have at Linux can be compiled. I didn't use it that much. Before I nuked my system, I looked into it and I had 10 packages. 10. And they're all in the Debian repository, so nothing to argue. Also, I have to say, Pacman is one of the best package managers out there, but so is apt. They're both different, but they both serve their needs. Pacman might be a little faster. Apt might be a little better when it comes to purging, when you want to maintain your configuration files, when you want to get rid of them. But nitpicks. This video is all about nitpicks. And speaking of nitpicks, I thought it was a really good idea to film this out there in the open, but I've been bitten by so many bugs right now. I think I'll never do it again. Let me look into my notes real quick if I forgot something. Look here. It's a little site. I didn't get myself to ride my bicycle even more further up. This is a little site over the state capital of Thuringia. The winter was long enough. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching. Auf Wiedersehen.